Most guys don't want to admit they have a problem with porn. They just think they need more willpower, more self-control, more something. But here's the truth. I didn't quit porn because I became some kind of spiritual monk or rewired my dopamine system by reading a few self-help books. I quit because I finally understood what I was up against, and then I built a plan to beat it. Now let me tell you what this video isn't. This isn't motivational fluff or no fap hype, and it's definitely not a lecture on how you're broken and you need to find your inner child. This is real, raw, and is exactly what I did to quit porn and how you can do it too. But first, let's get one thing straight. Porn addiction isn't about being weak. It's about being human, because porn hijacks the most powerful drive in your body, the sex drive, and feeds with infinite novelty and instant access. You're not supposed to be able to resist that. It'd be a denial of your biology if you could. And that's why it's a trap and it's so addictive. And the longer you use it, the more it rewires your brain until eventually you're not even choosing to watch porn anymore. It's just an automatic reflex to any situation that doesn't demand your focus and attention. It simply becomes part of who you are. Somehow, in the age of thousands of streaming books, platforms, and video games, you get bored? Go fire up some porn. Frustrated that the project you're working on is taking too long? Porn to the rescue. Feeling lonely because all of your friends are busy and you're single because your last girl bounced after she caught you watching porn? Shit, well, you definitely got to watch some porn now. You ain't got nobody to satisfy that urge. Porn is so powerful that even when you're not in the mood, somehow you end up watching it anyway, and it puts you in the mood. But that's not real arousal and is beyond just a habit. Now it's an addiction. And I know what you're thinking. I'm not some degenerate. I can stop anytime I want. If there's one thing I know from being an addict and working with addicts, the first sign that someone is an addict is when they say they're not one and that they can quit anytime they want to. I know that because that's what I thought too, until I tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed and tried again. Eventually I realized this wasn't about guilt, morals, or self-discipline. I genuinely felt pathetic watching other dudes get laid. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't because I was conditioned. Every time I opened my laptop alone, I felt an immediate and intense compulsion to fire up a porn site, even when I had no intention of watching anything. Even in public, I had to check myself a few times to make sure I didn't fire up a porn site out of habit. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a self-control issue. This was a Pavlovian response. And if I wanted to win, I had to rewire the triggers. So in this video, I'm going to give you two things. First, I'm going to lay out the 7-step plan I use to quit for good. And second, I'm going to tell you about the only tool I found that actually helps men stay clean in the long term. This is the truth about porn addiction and how I finally quit. Now let's start with something basic. Why is it so hard to stop watching internet porn, even when you know it's wrecking your relationships, giving you early erectile dysfunction, and fundamentally distorting your view of the world and yourself? So we gotta start with the fundamentals and ask an obvious question. What is it about porn that makes it so hard to quit? The simple answer is this: because you're supposed to want sex. Sex drive is actually a marker of health. Although it's artificial, porn satisfies a natural urge, but in an unnatural way. Porn gives you the reward without the risk, the pleasure without the pursuit, the climax without the connection. Biologically, that's an unbeatable setup. We want to take the easiest way to our goals, and porn is a lot easier than putting yourself out there, talking to girls and risking rejection, especially if you can get variety as well. Your brain evolved to chase novelty, especially when it comes to sex. That's where something called the Coolidge effect comes in. The Coolidge effect is a biological phenomenon where a male, human or animal, shows renewed sexual interest when it's introduced to a new partner. Now, in nature, this drives reproduction, but in porn, it drives addiction. There's always a new video, a new face, a new scene, and every time you click, your brain fires off a new hit of dopamine. Your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. This is why horror movies scare you even though you know the monster isn't real. And it's why porn gets you off, even though there's no one in the room but you and a bottle of lotion, unless you're old school and you roughneck it. Now, multiply that reaction over hundreds, maybe thousands of videos, years of use, and an internet full of endless options, and you start to see what you're up against. Porn doesn't just affect your arousal patterns, it completely rewires them. Before you know it, regular sex isn't enough and real women don't excite you. You become desensitized to normal intimacy. This has happened to me on several occasions while I was battling the beast. There'd be a cute girl in front of me, ready and willing, and I'd either not be able to perform or I'd get so psyched up knowing that I had just beat it like 3 times that day that I'd sabotage the interaction so I wouldn't have to be humiliated. And sometimes it's not even about the pleasure anymore. It's just about escaping discomfort, like stress, boredom, and loneliness and shame. So yeah, it's not just a bad habit. It's a full-blown behavioral addiction. And that's easy to hide, hard to talk about, and even harder to break. Because the one thing you're addicted to is everywhere and easy to access. No one bats an eye when you spend hours alone on your phone or on your laptop. There's no breathalyzer for porn, no rehab for internet use. It's the perfect secret vice that starts alone, thrives on loneliness, and will ultimately keep you alone unless you do something about it. But if you've watched this far, I'm guessing you already know that it's a problem and you know these things. Maybe your relationships are suffering. Maybe you're numb to a woman. Maybe you can't get it up anymore. Or worse, you don't even care about having sex, preferring HD to the real thing. Whatever your reason, just know that you can't quit. You don't need to be perfect or pure. You just need a plan, really. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you, the exact steps I follow to break free from porn. And I want to start with something so simple and basic, you might leave the video. But if you're serious, please don't do that, because this first step lays the foundation for everything else. You got to delete your browser history and cache. Yeah, I know that's pretty basic, right? But there's a reason this works. See, your browser has a memory, not just of what you search for, but what you almost search for. Type W into your address bar and boom, some explicit site you visited once pops up as an autocomplete suggestion. When that happens, the conditioning kicks in. It's Pavlov's dog, but for porn. You weren't even thinking about watching, but suddenly the idea is planted. And just like that, it's like a real life Inception movie. Now you gotta watch sooner or later. So delete your browser history, clear out your autofill, reset your browser, and for the love of God, don't try to circumvent this by looking up porn in incognito mode. But even doing that will save you from being triggered, to be honest, because at the very least, it removes the power of the trigger by putting it in a separate browser that has no memory. You're not erasing the past when you do this. You're removing the triggers that control your future, and that starts by taking this step in the present. After that, you need to install a porn blocker. Now, this is where most guys stop. They think blocking access to pornographic material is enough, but it's not. It is necessary, but it's not enough. You need friction. You need a wall between you and the thing that's destroying your self-respect. So that's where porn blockers come in. Now, I've tried pretty much every blocker out there. Covenant Eyes, Canopy, Freedom. Most of them work just fine, but they all miss the bigger picture. They treat you like a kid. They say, we'll block the bad stuff and hope you don't find a way around it. But if you've ever been addicted to anything, you know that the craving, or that when the craving hits, and that's all you can think about, you'll find a way to get that fixed. And that's why I was blown away when I found Quitter. It blocks access, yeah, but that's just the beginning. It also builds accountability, gives you tools to manage cravings, and it connects you with a real community of guys who are fighting the same battle. More on that in a bit, but first, the next step of my plan. Stop touching your penis beyond any necessary functions. That means only cleaning it and taking a piss, that's it. You'd be shocked how many relapses start with boredom and fidgeting. You're not turned on, you're not even touching yourself. But when you just touch yourself, that leads to cravings. And that is why you have to break the link of touching your penis, because you associated with that. And no, this doesn't mean that you can never masturbate again, but you need to be able to do that without porn, without fantasy, and without it being a reflex. That's one habit. That one habit, keeping your hands off of it, will reduce your triggers more than you realize. That it will be easier with the next step, which is to get physical and get away from the screen. I'm assuming most of you are watching porn on a device, a phone, a laptop, or a tablet. You're not watching on VHS. You're probably not looking at magazines. And I'm also willing to bet you're alone when you do it. That's not just circumstance. That's part of the ritual anyway. Just like a smoker steps outside to light up, or a drinker hits the same bar stool after work, porn has a ritual too. You're in your room, you're tired, you're bored, you open up your laptop and your brain knows what time it is. You don't even have to be thinking about porn. Your body is already preparing for it. So here's what you do instead. When urge hits, get up, get moving, lift some weights, go for a run, do some push-ups, stretch. Doesn't matter, whatever it is, just interrupt the ritual. You need to replace the screen time stimulus with something physical, something real. Porn makes you feel like you're doing something, but you're not. You're leaking energy, motivation, and time. The same way that video games make you feel like you're actually on a quest, porn makes you feel like you've actually done something that made you reproduce, but you didn't. I saw an old joke once that went, without tits in the world, Alexander the Great would have been just Alexander the Fuck It. When you get physical instead of jerking off, or playing video games for that matter, then you're doing something to get you away from the hedonist treadmill and into the real world, earning your dopamine and increasing the likelihood you'll be able to attract a real sex partner, not just your favorite OnlyFans creator. When you move your body, you change your state, you shift the chemicals, you rewire the craving loop. I've never finished a set of heavy squats and thought, man, I can't wait to watch some porn after this. Now that leads right into the next one, which is step 5. Talk to some women. I don't mean try to hook up. I mean actually talk to women in real life. You need to start reconnecting with the real thing, because porn gives you the illusion of abundance, of sexual access and variety. And once your brain gets used to that fake buffet, regular, healthy, real life intimacy starts to feel boring. It's not, but your brain's too fried to know the difference. And here's what's wild. There are guys out there who can get laid, who have actual partners, and they still prefer porn. Why? Because it's easier. There's no rejection, no awkward conversations, no emotional connection. But it's also empty. You're trading effort for control. You're paying for that control with your confidence, your drive, and your ability to bond. So talk to real women, not as a means to an end, but as a way to retrain your brain. Make eye contact, flirt a little, feel the nerves, risk being shot down. But realize that if the worst thing that happens to you is that a woman rejects you, then you're living a pretty good life anyway. You at least tried and hopefully learned something to make success more likely in the future. Now, step 6 might seem a little woo-woo, but trust me on this. You got to start practicing mindfulness. This one might sound soft, but don't skip it, please. It is one of the most powerful tools you'll ever use. Most guys try to fight cravings. They try to block them out, distract themselves, or power through. But the harder you fight a craving, the stronger it becomes. You give it energy, you give it attention, you make it grow. Mindfulness is about doing the opposite. When a craving hits, don't fight it. Feel it, notice it, observe it, sit with it. Take a deep breath. Watch what's happening inside your body and your mind. Don't try to change it. Don't try to fix it. Just let it be there. You'll start to realize something. The craving doesn't control you. It just passes through you like a fleeting thought you try to remember but never quite can. You're not the urge. You're the observer. And the more you practice that skill, the ability to watch the storm without jumping into it, the easier it gets to stay clean. This is what athletes do under pressure. It's what monks do in solitude, and it's what guys recovering from addiction do when temptation hits. Mindfulness isn't magic, but it's the closest thing I've found to it. Now, I've saved the most powerful step for last. You need to join or build a support group. This is the final piece of the puzzle, maybe the most important one. Porn addiction thrives in isolation. It's private, it's secret, it's silent. No one knows, no one sees, no one checks in, and that's why it's so hard to beat. But when you've got someone, anyone, to keep you honest, everything changes. I've run coaching groups, I've been in accountability chats, I've talked to hundreds of guys, and I can tell you this for sure. The difference between the guys who quit and the guys who keep relapsing is usually one thing: connection. You need to be around other men, guys who have been through it, guys who are going through it. These guys are not there to shame you, but to remind you that you're not alone. That's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of the Quitter app. They are not sponsoring this video, but they did sponsor one before, and I'm genuinely impressed by what they've accomplished with their app. It's not just a blogger. It has a built-in support community. There are men in their group 24/7 sharing progress, setbacks, wins, cravings, and advice. When you feel weak, they've got you. When you feel weak, or when they feel weak, you've got them. And that's how recovery works. Together. I want to talk about why Quitter works so well and why it's more than just a porn blocker. Most blockers are like digital babysitters. They restrict access, throw up a wall, and hope you don't figure out how to climb over it. And for a little while, that works. If blocking access was enough, we wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place, because addiction doesn't live in your browser, it lives in your brain. What Quitter does differently is that it treats you like a man who wants to get better, not like a child who needs to be controlled. Here's how it works. The first thing you see when you open the app is a simple challenge: pledge to not masturbate for 24 hours. That's it. One day, short-term goal, achievable, not overwhelming. You check back the next day and track your streak. It builds momentum. It gives you something to lose, and that alone keeps a lot of guys on track. But then you get the deeper tools. There's a section called Reasons for Change. You write down why you want to quit, your real personal reasons, not something generic, not something you saw on Reddit, but your personal reasons. Because when the cravings hit, and they will, you're not thinking straight. You'll forget why you wanted to quit, and that list is your reminder. Then there's the gamification. You get achievements, streak counters, milestones, and that taps into something primal: progress. Men love to see progress and compete. The thought of losing even a small streak can keep you going when your motivation is low. And yes, some guys will lie to the app, but that's not really the point. The point is to build internal accountability. If you can't train yourself to be honest with yourself, then you won't succeed anyway. The app is just there to help. Because porn addiction isn't about the porn, it's about your relationship with discipline, control, and integrity. Quitter doesn't just block access, it gives you the tools to rebuild yourself piece by piece. And then there's the part that makes it better than any other tool out there, the community. This is the part that really separates Quitter from everything else on the internet. Right now, there's a Telegram group with over 6,000 guys in it, all trying to quit porn, all working through the same cravings, the same shame, the same struggles. And they're showing up for each other every single day. It's hard to explain what that means until you've experienced it. You feel an urge coming on, and you don't open the browser. Instead, you open the chat. You type out what you're going through. And instead of getting silence or judgment, you get support. Real men from all over the world and responding with encouragement, advice, even just saying sometimes I feel that too, and that helps. I've watched guys post in the chat saying they were on the verge of relapsing, and within minutes, 5 or 6 others jumped in to help them stay strong. That kind of support, it's rare, especially with something like porn addiction, because no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to admit they're struggling with something that feels private, shameful, and embarrassing. But here's the truth. You can't fight this alone. You weren't meant to. You're not able to. Addiction is built in isolation, but recovery is built in connection. That's the kind of energy you need around you, not fake Instagram advice, not vague mantras, not shame, just real people fighting the same fight who want to get better. And when you combine that community with the streak tracking and the mindfulness tools and the craving management, it stops just being an app. It becomes a system, a strategy, a brotherhood of men tired of being slaves to the lying geek empire. So here's the point. You don't beat porn by hiding from it. You beat it by rebuilding yourself piece by piece, step by step. And that's not easy. The first 3 days are brutal. You'll hear that voice in your head telling you, just give it one more time, just give it and you'll be okay. But every time you resist that voice, even for just 5 minutes, you take a bit of your power back. And the longer you stay clean, the easier it gets. Because this isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about finally being honest with yourself and deciding that you've had enough. I'm not here to judge anyone still in it. I've been there. I know what it's like to feel stuck, ashamed, isolated, and frustrated. But I also know what it feels like to be free. Porn addiction doesn't just steal your time, it steals your drive, your ambition, your connection to the world. And once you see what it's been taking from you, quitting becomes non-negotiable. If you want to check out Quitter, I'll drop the link in the pinned comment. And if you want to see what I learned after coaching 500 men get off porn, watch this video here.